So let me see if I can tie this all together. I want to be seated because I see this more of a discussion, even though I'm the one who's going to be doing most of the talking, I guess. I did the keynote address 4 years ago, and I was trying to reflect on what I've learned since. And it dawned on me that it was cancer. And I found out 3.5 years ago, 6 months or so after I did the keynote address here, that I had 2 different kinds of stage 4 cancer. And the first oncologist told me that there was a 99% chance I'd be dead in 6 months. So I got a second opinion that confirmed that, and a third opinion, and a fourth opinion, and a fifth opinion, and they all said the same thing. The fifth doctor said, "You have a 1 in 100 chance. It might as well be you." And it occurs to me that being an artist is kind of similar. There's a whole lot of people telling artists, you can't do it. You know, there's a whole lot of evidence that says you can't do it. You know, I have a 23-year-old son. He goes, yeah, with an attitude like that, you can't do it. If the doctors had told me I had one kind of stage 4 cancer, I would have said, okay, fix it. If they had told me I had the other kind of stage 4 cancer, I would have said, fix it. When they said, you got 2, it was clear to me that they were out of their element. And most of the people who were telling you, you can't do it, are out of their element. So I started looking around. I said, there's a challenge that I'm up for. Let's go. I kind of figure there must be like 400 things that kill cancer, and 7 of them work for you, and you got to find it. You know, there's a whole lot of things that work for making you a successful artist, and you got to do what's true to you and what works for you, not them. I started looking around. I mean, the whole cancer thing is not particularly relevant beyond that. I'm still dealing with it. I was on chemo last week. I'm doing chemo the day after tomorrow. It isn't fun. I don't want any empathy for this. I don't need it. I've learned a lot. You'll watch. I think baby steps are a battering ram. You know, all the time you say, I can't do that, I can't go there, you can certainly move incrementally in that direction. You know, Kerry James Marshall is a brilliant artist who just had a one-person show at the Museum of Contemporary Art here in Chicago and at the Brower Whitney in New York, and won a MacArthur Prize. And he says, you know, just keep putting one foot in front of the other, you're moving. I'm serious. It's like an inexorable force that is relentless. You don't have to make massive commitment. You have to do 1% more maybe than you're totally comfortable with. Push yourself a little. You know, I don't know. I skied a lot. I don't think when you're standing at the top of the mountain, you can predict 3 turns, you know? You might be able to get 1, you go, because you know where the first one is, and then you figure out the second one. And lo and behold, you keep going and you get there. You know, it's sort of like when you learn to walk. Sometimes you fall, you know, but you didn't stop walking. I find wisdom in so many places. I think you've got to take, some of these things I'll repeat in different contexts. Cesar with dog videos, all right? So we're thinking about getting a dog. So we're watching dog videos so we do better this time. And he's talking about, you know, what you do when you're walking your dog on a leash and you encounter another dog. What I would always do would pull on the leash and make it tight so that in case something happens, we're ready. Which Cesar points out that is communicating to the dog to be on guard and attack. Whereas if you release the leash, you're communicating to the dog, chill dude, I got this under control, watch this. The exact same thing happens when you encounter situations, right, in your life, when you go into an art gallery, when you're talking to somebody about your art. If you can relax the leash, if you can relax the energy like I'm trying to do before I get up here, you know, you can create a better environment and get a better result. Baby steps, you know, within the realm of what you're comfortable with. For me, with cancer, it's important to feel like I'm entitled to good results. A lot of us don't feel worthy. A lot of us feel guilty. You can tell when somebody pays you a compliment and you go, not me. That means you're guilty because or your self-opinion isn't as good as it ought to be. And I'm pretty sure we're all guilty of that. I coach a lot of TED fellows, and they do the same thing. I'm pretty sure this is a human characteristic, therefore. And I'm pretty convinced that when somebody pays you a compliment, it's the truth. You know, we just have too much BS filters that we've put in our own way. They have no reason to be flattering us too much. You know, it's more about the sincerity. It's us who's wrong. You know, we should pay attention to that. I think if we ratchet all of us, our self-opinion up 15%, 15, you know, we'll get a more accurate assessment of where we belong. If we set our objectives 15% higher, we'll probably have a realistic appraisal of what we can accomplish. That's a lot. So for me, generosity is really important. If I can be generous and commit an act of kindness, it makes me feel like I've done something good. And then I can pat myself on the back and go, good boy, Paul. And I feel worthy. And then I feel entitled to have somebody say, your tumors got smaller. And I can go ahead and create, you know, you go back to that dog leash thing, you create the environment where you get the results you want. I mean, you don't have 1,000%, 100% control over this, you know, but you have control over shaping an attitude. And the attitude influences others and comes back. It's kind of like it's a system, you know, and it's kind of like a closed system. You know, if you picture picture a bunch of hoses all screwed together. You know, if you stomp on one end, it's going to push up over there, right? Or a waterbed. If you push down over here, it's coming up over there. It's the same thing. I think if you put good energy in some place, good energy is going to come back somewhere else. Or if you believe it does, or it's going to, you have a better mindset, I think, for getting the kinds of results and what you want. So periodically I get off chemo because my tumors shrink. And they go, oh goody, but don't trust it, Paul. You know, and then like 4 months later, I go, oh damn it, they're back. And the doctors always imply that when I go back on chemo, it isn't going to work, and my mindset goes that I'm going to be dead again in 2 months. And that sucks. You know, and then you realize, or then I have the CAT scan and it goes, the tumors have shrunk. And you go, I get it, I'm not the preponderance. You know, they look at what, 1 million different statistics, and then they apply all of those statistics to you. But you're unique. And it isn't mandatory that all of those statistics apply to you. And it isn't mandatory that you can't pull it off as an artist. It's imperative that you be who you are. It's imperative that you be vulnerable. It's the vulnerable stuff that people relate to. It's the vulnerable stuff that opens it up that people can see. I mean, I feel like, well, I've interviewed thousands of artists and asked them things. This isn't all coming from me. This is coming from discussions and distilled and pushed through sieves and getting me stuff. But you know, Camille Seaman talked really brilliantly about how we are here for a reason. You are 1 billion years in the making. Whoa. You know, and I think if you are an artist, you know it by now. I don't think very many people choose to be an artist. I think a lot of people choose to not be an artist. But I think an artist is kind of like a curse and a blessing, and it's a special feature that a fair number of people have. Not many, but a fair number. You know, you have an ability to see and synthesize ideas and represent them and show things people possibility and hope. It's really a mandatory thing in our society, and God, it comes with a lot of responsibility. You know, I mean, if you're thinking about choosing to be an artist, my advice would be to not. If you were an artist, I would say you are really super fortunate. But I don't, you know, it's kind of like cancer. I don't know that I would wish this upon anybody, but I have learned so much. It has been hell and I've loved it. You know, and it isn't over, and you know, it'd be nice if it were, but it's still a beautiful journey. So you're unique. And the cool thing about art is it's different than all the other stuff. You know, when I talked about the preponderance, the art thing is subjective. Somebody likes what you drew, what you painted, what you sculpted, or what you did on your iPad. Beautiful. A bunch of people don't. BFD. So what? You know? You're trying to deal with your community and the people with whom it resonates. You are not Ford. You are not trying to sell 1 million cars. You're trying to sell 10. You know, to sell 10, you need how many people? Not 1 million. Okay? Deal with what's real in your existence and what you're capable of doing. You know, if you can inspire 10 people, I mean, I think you need 6. If you get 6 people who truly believe in what you're doing, I think you can really, you know, make a lot of significant change. The way to go about it is to find the area where what you're interested in intersects with what somebody else is interested in, where your pond overlaps with somebody else's pond. And an awful lot of this is just like dating. And it doesn't start with saying, I am the most fabulous person you've ever met, you should really be in a relationship with me. You know, you should look at my art and you should give me a 1-person exhibition and you should make me famous. You know, that's the exact same thing. It doesn't work that way. It does work with, hi, nice hair, bye. Or, hi, nice show, thank you, bye. That's enough, you know? And then baby steps. Hi, 2 nice shows. Whoa, thanks, see ya. Okay, you know, you can kind of take it from there. Every single artist has the ability to succeed. Every single artist. Because each of you, as an artist, is only looking for 6 people whom really resonate, who can propel your career. You know, that can multiply. That's what you're after. We all know people who have succeeded in the art world whose art we think sucks. And we all know people whose art we think is fabulous that nobody's really paying attention to. It's not really about the art, unfortunately. It is really about the relationships. It can be really about the art, but to a large extent it's not. And to a large extent it's about the relationships. And it's about the generosity thing and being nice and creating a scenario where somebody else, where you walk into a situation and somebody is in the right mindset to like your work, like your art. It is not about trying to convince them that the art is good, it's the personal relationship. Relationships are really important. I differentiate between vision and strategy. It's kind of like Mac or PC. You know, I mean, you have an affinity in terms of vision with one or the other. You know, the strategy, I think, you know, so that the vision is, I need to paint, I need to sculpt, I need to work green, I need to deal about the human condition, I care about the environment. This is what my art is about. That's not negotiable. Kind of like religion. Strategy is, how big do I make it? How much do I make it? How do I go about getting it out into the world? What is it that I want my art to accomplish? How do I make that happen? That's the strategy stuff. I think that's what's really important. I think there are 3 things that you need to do to make that happen. It goes back to the vulnerability thing and being yourself. Number 1, make distinctive art. There's really no point in making art that looks like somebody else's, because if somebody likes your work, they might go buy that other person's. Take a look at this other thing. Every single artist you have seen succeed is making art that doesn't look like anybody else's. It's really about being who you are and somebody going, whoa, that's interesting. I need some of that in my life because it challenges me and I want to rise to the occasion. That's really cool. Nobody, I mean, like, you go make paintings by look like Van Gogh. Let's say you're 10% better. You're not gonna, whatever that means. You're not going to sell them. I think it's really important. This is the burden part about being a visual artist, is you've got to be vulnerable and reveal yourself. You've got to reveal what it is that makes you unique. You know, you've got to be able to create as if nobody's paying any attention, and then you have to share it with everybody. I think that's really hard. Then there are the rest of us who are like chicken, and you know, we become art administrators and we are of service to the visual artists. But it's really the visual artists who are the gods. And I think you need to be vulnerable so that you can be really unique, so that you can put yourself out there. The really fascinating thing about vulnerability is that when you are vulnerable, people see themselves. And they don't sit there so much and talk about you, they feel themselves. And that makes being vulnerable kind of safer, kind of cool that way. You know, there was a point where I saw a new doctor and he was looking at my medical chart and he goes, Paul, whoa, how do you maintain a good attitude with all this shit you've been through? And I said, you know, nobody's ever asked me that. I don't know. And I called up my best friend, Dan. And I said, Dan, he said, Paul, what else are you going to do? And I think that's kind of it, you know. I think your attitude makes a whole lot of difference. Back to the dog on the leash, Cesar, right? With, you know, the attitude. I don't know how much we have control over in our life, right? I mean, part of how I rationalize this is I don't feel like we get to choose the challenges. You know, I feel lucky being born male, being born white. I don't feel like absence of challenges makes good art. I don't feel like you learn a lot by getting it right. I feel like you learn a lot by getting it wrong. You know, and having these kinds of challenges. And I think what matters is how each of us as individuals respond to the challenges. Not how, you know, not how high we get, but how far we travel. I think that's a better way to measure. For me personally, I feel more comfortable measuring myself that way. And I think just because somebody deals you a hand that you wish you hadn't had, I think you still say, okay, cool. This is it. I find community really, really important. I think you can engage and it magnifies, and this is where the ripples in the pond come from. And I was talking to Brandon about community, you know, and he and I live in different parts, but you know, we intersect on people, and you know, you come together with stuff and you touch each other. Soul is a good word. You touch each other's souls, you know, and you make a difference in somebody's life and you feel a little bit better and you walk a little bit taller. You know, that's like enough on most days. It's probably enough any day, you know, then you go take a nap. I like those nap things. I coach a lot of artists, and women, a lot of people, and women more so, are prone to asking for permission. And I think we all have our own moral compass. And I think we know what's right. And I don't think we need to ask for permission. I have another good friend, Tony Fitzpatrick, who talks about it's easier to ask, or better, to ask for forgiveness than permission. You know, I think give yourself that, ratchet your self-opinion up, that 15% that we talked about, right? And realize you know what's right and wrong. You know what you need to do. You know what your vision is. You know that you were here for a reason. You know you have something to accomplish. You don't need permission to fulfill your reason for being on this planet. You know, in the art world, there are no gatekeepers. If you say, I belong, and you show up, you belong. I don't think it's the same way being a bank teller, but damn it. You know, but in many, many situations, there are no gatekeepers. Lastly, an artist said to me one time, if I could just get past this next obstacle, everything would be fine. I said, there are no obstacles. You know, and then I had to back off. Pretty much the obstacles are the obstacles you and I put in our own way. Pretty much. You know, we can do this. You can do it. You can succeed. It's baby steps. It's a powerful force. Keep moving. Thank you.